Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Woodard, and today I am going to be going over the final changes I have made for Sprint 4 and the tasks that I wanted to complete in Sprint 4. So, to give a little summary, in Sprint 1, I created the due date functionality for my to-do list. In Sprint 2, I created the ability to add an assigner and to be able to search by task groups, such as maybe the task falls in sports, maybe the tasks fall in the category of homework that you can actually add a task group and then search by that task group. And then in Sprint 3, I added a digital time clock using JavaScript. So now we are in Sprint 4 where things are kind of coming to an end and we're wrapping everything up. And so what I wanted to do for this sprint is so far my to-do list application from previous work that I have done is that if you click complete and that you have marked your task as completed, it will show up green and cross it out. If your task is incomplete, it will just, it won't be marked out, it won't be green, it'll just be kind of the icon will be gray. And so what I wanted to do for this is if it's incomplete, but the task is overdue, it shows up red. And so I want this to happen because it's going to help with the visualization of the project, but it's also going to let um, college students or anyone who is using this know that, okay, I need to prioritize that task that is overdue. I need to get that done. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go over the code and how I implemented the code into my project, and then I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my web application and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to go to my task list because this is where I hold the code for my task list and where my tasks show up on my HTML page on the web application. So if we go here, I actually only had to add one line of code, but it took me a long time to realize that. I was really struggling to figure out how to structure my statement because I had to create an if. So I'm going to show you the line of code that I'm working with. So this is a line of code that needed to be added. So what I needed to do is I knew what I needed to do before I did it. I just wasn't sure how to write it properly. And so I needed to create an if statement to say like, okay, if it's overdue, we need to create this div class element. So then if the task is overdue, now I can go style that div class element to then say, okay, task is overdue, let's make it red. So I had to add a couple of things here. So we already have our div class task wrapper that we're wrapping our tasks in. So we're going to say if the task complete, which is just saying if the task is complete, then we're going to add this div class element right here, task dash complete. So if this condition is true right here, if the task is complete, we can add task dash complete right here as a div class element that can be later styled in my CSS code. And so now we'll end that if statement. Now right here, this is where we have if task.days till due, which is a function in my models.py file. If the task.days till due, the default 0 and it's less than 0, what this is saying is okay, let's say the date 0 and it's less than 0. What that means is that it's overdue, right? And so basically we're going to now create this div class element task-overdue, which now we can go style if this condition is true. So if the task is overdue, we will create this task overdue element that can be styled to say, okay, we're going to make that task red since it's overdue and incomplete. So that is what that little section of code means right there. I know it's rather short, but it took me a long time to figure out how to write that and what what div class elements I needed to put into my CSS to style them. Because I was thinking, oh, I just need the task overdue, but I actually needed this task dot complete for a specific reason that I'm going to go show right now. So let's head over to my main HTML and let's go into my CSS. So I'm going to show you what we're looking at. We're looking at these two statements right here. So I'm going to show you why that task dash complete is so important. So right here, we'll start with the top. So dot task dash overdue is what we created. And then our task wrapper, which is wrapping our tasks to be styled. So we have the task overdue, the task wrapper. Now we're going to say, okay, now that we have these elements, if the task is not complete, that's what this colon and not means. We're going to say if the task is not complete, however, the task is overdue, we need to style the task incomplete icon. And so I'll show you what the icon is when I navigate to the web application. But we want that background color to be set to red. And I have a little comment here, set background color of the incomplete icon to red for incomplete and overdue tasks. So now we have the task overdue task wrapper again. It's basically the same statement saying, okay, if our task is overdue, but if we look right here, trying to unhighlight that, if our task is overdue, but it's not complete, we need to do our task title. And so this is literally the title of our task, and we want to color it red. So now whenever we look at that task title, it is actually colored red. So while I was trying to do this, there were plenty of challenges that I had faced. So I'll jump back to the task list. So we're looking at this line of code right here. I kept trying to write this and get this correct. However, I knew I was getting it wrong because when I went to my web application, no colors were showing up. And I was like, okay, well, I have my CSS code styled. I have this if statement right here, but nothing's showing up red. So I was like, okay, well, that's a problem. So we did some additional research. I was able to look at some things that other people have done, and I was able to kind of put things together in order to get the correct if statements written. And so after that, I went and the colors did show up, except it was styled completely incorrect. The formatting of my entire document was all messed up. And so I was like, oh goodness. So I had to I had to go look up CSS properties, and I had to figure out how to do like a conditional statement kind of with the CSS property. As you can see, if the task is overdue but it's not complete, it's kind of like a conditional statement almost in CSS. So I was trying to figure out how to do that, and I did figure out how to do that, and it is completed and does work. So with that being said, I will navigate over to my web application to show you what it looks like and to show you how it works. So let's go down here and run the server. Okay, here we are. So I already put some tasks on there so that you can see what it looks like just right off the jump. So the icon I was talking about is this little circle right here. This circle turns green if it's just incomplete, but it's not overdue, it's gray. And then if it's overdue, it's red, and the text is going to be red. So for example, I can add a task and we can say, let's see here. We'll do go on a jog, and we will say that that was due on the 12th. So that would be 2 days ago, and we will go ahead and submit that. Overdue by 2 days, it shows up red. So that was the functionality that I was trying to do. We can add a task here and say soccer game next Saturday. I believe that that is the 20th. So I will put that there. And as you can see, it's still grayed out. That'll be due in 6 days. We'll have a soccer game next Saturday. That is due the 20th. So we'll say do video for Sprint. We're working on that right now. So I'll just check that as complete. Shows up green. So the functionality I really wanted to show you was that this actually does show up red. So that is all that I have in this sprint that I wanted to show. And so what I'm going to be working on for the last week of this project that we have is just making sure everything is web accessible and complies to those standards for the CSS and my HTML. And then I will make my video to show a full presentation of my web application that I worked on this semester. Thank you.